Greetings everyone, this is Eldad Amara and this is my channel Eyes Wide Shut. Today I want to talk to you about digitalised currency. We're starting to move into the society where digital money is going to be the thing that's going to be controlling our future. Now I'm trying to keep cash alive as much as possible, and I know there's other people trying to do the same thing, because once we go digital, every single aspect of your life will be under control. You see, in the sense of the way, money gives us a certain amount of freedom and it gives us a certain amount of autonomy. We can spend our money where we like at the moment, but in the future, if money becomes digitalized and it becomes centralized by government under this CBDC, which means centralized digital control, the banks will control your money, right? And the government. Now, do you really want that? Because if you say something wrong, you may be punished for that. Yeah? And money stopped from your account. It's already starting to happen. Where the government, right, without a person's consent, can go and look into their accounts. Okay? And if they suspect them of committing fraud, they can stop your money, and you don't have to know anything at all about this. They can actually stop your money or take money straight out of your account. Is this the kind of life that you want, where your money is controlled by the government, it's being controlled by the state? This is the direction in which we are moving in, right? Now there's a guy, right, Aldous Huxley, and he made a quote in 1932, right, in his novel Brave New World. And listen to what he says here. In vast state incubators, rows upon rows of gravid bottles will supply the world with population it requires. The family system will disappear, and Eros, beautifully and irresponsibly free, will fleet like a gay butterfly from flower to flower through a sun-slit world. Other notable quotes from this period include his reflection on history and the human condition. People, we have to be very mindful of this new system that's coming into force, this digitalized currency, because the government will know exactly where you're spending your money, who you're spending your money with, where, say you're flying, yeah, if you're on holiday, they'll know how much you paid for your holiday, they'll know how much you've been spending on food, they'll know how much you've been spending on clothes, and all of those kinds of things. Now, don't you think that is very intrusive? Now, there's some people out there, they're going to accept this. We can already see that people are starting to use their phones to pay for things. Yeah, that's just one step closer towards the government's goal of digitalized currency, CBDCs. CBDCs, go and look it up. Now, if that does come in, alright, along with something called social credit score, the social credit score, where people will be awarded for doing something good and points taken away from them if they do something bad. So, for example, if you do something good, like storing the rubbish in your bin and separating your rubbish into different recycling bins, you may be awarded good points for that. If you're very careful about how much electricity that you use, right, that you use these smart meters, you may be awarded good points for that. But if you decide that you don't want to have a smart meter, they might take points away from you. Okay? If you don't pack your bins properly and you don't do recycling, okay? If you don't recycle your bins properly, they might take points away from you. If you're caught going up on the curb with your car, you may be fined for this. This guy in China decided to jaywalk. Alright, instead of crossing the road on a proper point, he crossed the road on a different point. And guess what? All these surveillance cameras were watching him. And by the time he got to the other side of the road, they're taking money. This is the government are taking money out of his account. Is that the kind of world that you want to live in? Is that the kind of world that you want to live in? Just imagine that. They took money out of his account before he reached the other side of the road. In China, they have the social credit score system where government will award people for doing good things according to the government's definition of what's good. And if you do something bad, okay, they can take points away from you. In China, there's been some schools, right, who have awarded students, check this out, Mike, they've awarded students for eating up all the food off of their plate, for eating all of the food off their plate, and punished for not eating. Those who didn't eat all their food were then punished, yeah, for not eating all of their food. You see, there's some people that's so accepting of the system, yeah, and they will follow literally every single thing that the government asks them to do. And I can see that we're starting to go down that road where people are just going to accept digitalized currency. But if you accept that, you're going to also have to accept that you're going to lose a lot of your freedoms. The government will know every single thing about you. Now, some people have gone to social media, right? This is another example. If you go onto social media and you put something up on social media the government don't like, do you know that they could, do you know in the future they may decide to punish you for that? Yeah? If they bring in the central credit score system, they can punish you for that. If you say something against the government, or you say something against a particular minister, or you put some kind of profanity, or use bad language, that you might be penalized for this. The system is moving in that direction. Trust what I'm telling you. It starts to move in that direction. There's been people in the UK who've been on social media, right, and they've said something negative on there, okay? We're supposed to be allowed free speech. They've gone onto the internet and they've said something about somebody, and then next thing they have been fined and all their equipment actually taken away from them, like the computer. I'm not talking about for anything to do with children, right? Act here in the UK, online safety bill, right, which is supposed to be there to protect children, yeah, and people from abuse. But, and I can understand that, I can totally understand that, but there's been some people who've gone on to the social media sites and have actually turned around and said something about a particular minister or about a particular policy that the government's trying to implement, and next thing, sorry, guess what, they have been removed from social media. Yeah. In a book by George Orwell, and I've got this book here, in a book by George Orwell called 1984, it says in this book, you just imagine, this is not the exact quote, but you imagine a giant boot stamping on the face of humans forever. You imagine a giant boot stamping on the face of man forever. That's not the exact quote, but this is meaning to say that the big corporations, the governments, right, they can punish you in the future, right, for things that they deem to be wrong. And so your freedoms, the freedoms that you have now, you may not have in the future. We are under constant mass surveillance. There's some people who's going to be accepting of the system, and there's some people who are resisting. So there are some people refusing to use things like credit cards, and they're refusing to use their phone to pay for things, and they're refusing to use credit cards and to just use cash only. We are starting to become too complacent, people. As this technology is coming in, we're getting too comfortable, too lazy, right? Too conditioned by technology. And we're starting to lose our humanity in place of this. It's up to you. It's totally up to you. Listen, has anybody ever seen the film Demolition Man? Yeah? With Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, and Susan Bullock, should I say? Susan Bullock. In this film, it's about the future, right? These guys, every time they end up swearing, right, they were fined for swearing. Just imagine that, fined for swearing. They lost credit for swearing. Now, this is the kind of future that I think we're going to be moving into, because, as I say, our freedoms are being taken away from us. Yeah?
Why don't you just shove a leash up my ass? John, sir, you are fine. But that's really fucking stupid.
And 20th century. Oh, shit. You are fine one. Motherfucker. You are fine.
In the future, the government will have total access to your information, right? You're going to have to pay to actually use the internet. You're going to have to use some form of ID to be able to get onto the internet. And if you say something wrong, don't be surprised if money is then taken out of your bank. And some people say, oh, no, the banks wouldn't do that, right? They wouldn't take money out of your account. Why wouldn't they? Because the government could penalise the banks if they don't do as requested by the government. So don't bother thinking, no, the banks won't do this. They've already done it to some people already in the UK. People in the UK have already had their accounts frozen or money taken out of their accounts. And this is for certain things that they've been deemed to have said. What kind of future is it that you want? Do you want to give away all your freedom and live in this digitalised system? Or do you want to have autonomy in terms of where you can go, what you can do, and who you can spend your money with? Now, this is totally up to you. The most fairest thing to really have is to have a system where it might have a mixture of both things, which is those people, if they want to use credit, they can use credit if they so wish. Or, alternatively, for those people who want to use cash, there should be a choice. There should be a choice as to which method of payment you want to use. But if the government turn around and say, no, they want to stop cash, right, and digital money will be the only form of payment, then I think this is totally wrong, and that's taking away people's rights and their freedom. As I say again, there's a guy in China and he's jaywalking and he did not cross the road at a proper point. By the time he got to the other side of the road, because his cameras were watching him, and these cameras were obviously linked to his bank account, by the time he got to the other side of the road, money was taken out of his bank account. Also, in some schools in China, students were awarded points for eating up all of their food, and points taken away from them under this social credit score system, points taken away from them for not eating all of their food. What kind of system is that? Where's the freedom? Anyway, this is Eldad Amara with another video. Over and out. Thank you.